Hello, hi, hey, hi. It's Adventurerathon! So, I already finished one book in the first 4 days of this readathon. It sounds fast, but it isn't. If you look at the Discord, like, people were finishing books left, right, and center. Me finishing one apparently is very slow because other people are already on their 16th or something. I don't know. People in the Discord are crazy. Anyways, I finished Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, and yes, this has cleansed my mind of the cacophony that was the Netflix show season 2 thing, whatever they did with that one. Book good is better. If you are out there and you have not read the Grishaverse books and you were confused by season 2 and or you want more Shadow and Bone now that it is cancelled, just read the fucking books. The books are better than the show. The books are better than the show, period. And then I went ahead and started immediately after Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky, because now I have fulfilled, with Ruin and Rising, I have fulfilled the prompt where the history is important, so the Ilaria ruins. I went to the ruins before I picked the table. I guess I waited for the guild hall to empty out. This is me trying to make a story up for this very unsolidified character that I have in mind. Whatever. I started Guns of the Dawn and I'm only 82 pages in, and so far I'm missing the guns a lot. This right now feels more like a British period drama and less like a flintlock fantasy. Like, the first chapter reads more like a prologue where we actually do some fighting, and ever since then we are just following Emily and her two sisters, how they navigate the world that is freshly at war. And it's just, let's just say I do not care about these characters and about their horrible love lives. So right now we are mostly focusing on what happened before the first chapter, and I guess it is to point out how Emily got to the point she is at in the first chapter. But the way there is so incredibly boring, I think a math class would be more interesting than that. I do not care for any of these characters. I do not care. The best characters are, I think his name is Grant, and he's the groundskeeper, and Grant is just a giant-ass golden retriever who happens to not have been drafted for the war. And the other most interesting character was there for 2 pages, because she had to deliver a message, and oh no, she's a woman with short hair and wearing pants. Scandalous. There is one thing, though, that this book does really, really well, and it is hammering home the reality of war when you are not at the front line. Usually when you have a flintlock fantasy book, you follow a character who's at the front line, who has to fight all these battles, and is usually the hero of the story. And yes, they focus on the gruesome aspects of fighting a war, but this book, so far, I'm only 80 pages into a 600 plus page novel. So far, what this book does very, very well is show the misery that is left behind the front line. In this world, so far, this war started and everyone was like super pro-war. We're like, yeah, we're just gonna fight them. It's not going to take very long. We're going to win in a couple of weeks because they are so disorganized, they being the enemy. And then a couple of weeks, then in a couple of months, and then it was like, yeah, by the end of the year we're going to have it done. And then the normal working soldiers weren't enough, so they were looking for volunteers, and then they had to draft people. The drafting age was lowered, and now almost everyone between the ages of 15 and 50 is going to the front lines, and 1 year became 2, became 3 years, and now everyone not at the front line is either a woman, a child, or a veteran who was wounded so much that they cannot put them back in the front line. And everyone is suffering because all of the food goes to the front, but you have no one to harvest the food, to actually harvest the food, because everyone who's usually doing the harvesting is now at the front line. So everything in this country suffers, and this book is very, very good at showing this specific kind of misery that a war brings with it. But I don't know why we need to focus on the love life of these 3 sisters. One of them, the oldest one, is married and her husband is at the front line. Okay, cool. So she doesn't have a love life. I can live with that. The second one is Emily, second born, and she is shown to be this stubborn lady that is not too conforming with social conventions, but at the same time she is. That's kind of weird. And then we have the younger sister, Alice, and she is like all about the high society life. Like, she wants the jewels, she wants the makeup, she wants the dresses, she wants all of that stuff. And then they get a letter from this cool soldier lady who's, shocker, wearing pants. Then they are invited to this ball where the king may or may not show up. And that is all the story is about so far. Like, them trying to shop for dresses in an economy that is essentially broken down because of the war. That is not the part I'm here for. Give me back chapter 1, where we are trudging through a swamp trying to find the enemy we are fighting. But again, this is 600 plus pages, 650 something. So I am willing to give this 200 pages to convince me that it is worth my time. Usually I decide at around the 100-page mark. I don't think there's going to be anything interesting by the 100-page mark, given that we are still not at the ball. We are barely behind buying dresses. Yeah, but I would like to have my flintlock fantasy a bit more flintlocks and a bit more fantasy in it. I also started an ebook that wasn't on my initial TBR, and yes, we have a limitation on swaps, and I used my only one free swap that I have already, but it's for a good reason, because there's also a Five Nights at Freddy's readathon going on, and I, as a FNAF enthusiast since game 2, have chosen to participate in that readathon, and it's a cute little readathon made by a cute little man. And for that, I changed my random letter generator from the Sage's Retreat, which we all remember was a C. So I changed City of Carnal Delight to Cupcakes, Trinkets, and Other Deadly Magic. That's a mouthful. So that I can fulfill the prompt having food on the cover and or in the book. And I think it is very fitting that I found something with a cupcake on it, given that this is a prompt for the Chica storyline in the FNAF readathon. If you know your FNAF, you know what I mean. So I'm reading that. I'm not very far into that. It's just 36 pages, and I actually don't really know what it is about. I think it's like a bunch of werewolves end up murdered, and a half-witch is being blamed for that. So now she teams up with a vampire investigator to figure out what the fuck is going on. I think. Do not quote me on this summary of the book. I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah, I changed that. And everything else on my TBR in the Adventurer readathon should fit in the FNAF readathon, so I can fulfill both of those. That is my progress so far. Pretty good start into the year in terms of reading for me. I've almost every day I read 100 pages, which is, I did that a couple of months/years ago, and I don't know why I stopped, because it's kind of okay-ish to reach that. So far I've read almost 100 pages every day for this year, which is pretty good. I'm pretty proud of managing to do that. But yeah, I'm trying to finish Cupcakes, Trinkets, and Other Deadly Magics. I hate this title so much. Let's just call it Cupcakes. I'm trying to finish Cupcakes by the end of the week, which is in less than 48 hours at this point. I get my second book done, and I'm slowly going to chip away at Guns of the Dawn, simply because it's so massive. It doesn't help that it's written in like a very old-timey way. I really want this to be more action than Bridgerton. Please. Please. It's me again, coming to you with another update. And I just realized I'm wearing the same hoodie as the last couple of times. I promise I have other pieces of clothing. I just really love this hoodie, okay? Don't at me. Remember how I said I will give this 200 pages because it is so thickums to decide if I DNF it or not? Well, I'm exactly at the 200 page mark. I'm at page 206. And we are just now leaving to get to the place where things might be getting interesting. So I don't know what to do with this book. I do have to say though, we have been away from the mansion for the last 1 or 2 chapters. And as soon as we are away from the mansion and the whiny sisters, the story becomes a bit more interesting, so I'm willing to give this another 100 pages. I'm still very much on the fence about it. If I had to give it a rating right now, I would probably go with a 2-star out of 5. Because again, it's really not that interesting. I have seen glimpses of the fantasy aspect of this thing though, with the king doing magic things. I think I understood what was happening in the scene, I'm not quite sure. But if I understood what was going on, then I think the magic system is really cool. Simply because apparently you study to become a warlock. They don't have wizards in this, they have warlocks. So you study for like years and years and years. You start as a small little kid and you get your like degree in your mid-20s if you're fast, if you're a really good student, and if there's a war in the background that kind of needs its warlocks. And then you literally get branded by the king. Like he literally just heats up his hand and then he just brands you like you are a cow in the Wild West. And that is what gives you your magic? So you're just running around with a burn scar in the shape of a hand, but that's fine because you get cool fire magic for it. I guess? I don't know. It was just one scene, so yeah. But yeah, Emily now knows how to wield a gun and apparently she's really good at it, according to everyone who's training her, much to the surprise of herself because she's a gentlewoman. So yeah. We are on our way to the front now, and I don't know what to think about this book. I will keep going. And I'm either going to like it, where this is going, or I will be too stubborn to quit. We shall see what it will be. And in terms of cupcakes, trinkets, and some other things, it feels like it's going nowhere. I'm only like 20 pages further than I was the last time I gave an update. I don't know, it's like trudging through hip-high mud water. And I can't even if I attempt to speed read it, I'm just getting nowhere. The pages just don't, they don't go. I want them to go brrr, but they do not go brrr. I don't know. There's also not much I can say about this, given that I have only accomplished 20 more pages. Well, we now know that there are murders, and they look like they have been committed by a vampire, but the vampire police guy says it's not a vampire if you look close enough and you know what you're looking for. So now he's accusing our witch main character because the magic found at the scene has her signature, but she's like, I don't know how to do magic, I'm only half witch. Whatever. Also, reviews say that the twist is very predictable and that most people figured out who did it at like the 30% mark. I'm 22% done with this. And I'm calling it now. It's the boyfriend of the sister. It's the half witch, half necromancer kind of guy that has very distinctly no big powers despite his parentage. I'm sorry, but if corpses show up without any blood and it's not a vampire, that screams necromancy to me. And the guy with powerful parentage who himself does not have a lot of power might want to experiment with shit, so I'm calling it now, it's the boyfriend. We will see if I can stick with this shit to the end. Right now it's just very, very annoying because I was promised a magical murder mystery. What I'm getting so far is Cupcakes in Toronto. No, not Toronto, in Vancouver. I'm getting Cupcakes in Vancouver. And I'm like, okay, cool. Even though the book is called Cupcakes, Trinket, and whatnot, I didn't come here for the cupcakes, and I also didn't come here for a tour through Vancouver. So, I don't know. We will see. Strange the Dreamer continues to be good. I am now 200 and something, 208 pages into this, which is 60% of the first part of the first book, because remember the German publisher fucked up and split it in 2 halves for some reason. It's still so good! I am flying through this book. It's legitimately baffling me how fast I am able to read this. But now I'm at the point where it kind of shows the fact that it was ripped in half. Like that the original story was ripped in half by the publisher, by the German publisher. Simply because I have 100 and something, like 150 pages left, and all of this still feels like Act 1, kind of. So yeah, I don't know how much like plot is going to happen in the next 150 pages. Like usually this would be where like the action is ramping up and shit, and we are just now getting to the place where everything is supposed to happen. So I don't know what the German publisher thought they were doing here with this, but it is so good. And I just realized that I never told anyone what this book is about. So we follow a boy/guy named Laszlo Strange, and he is a very imaginative kid, and he loves listening to stories, he loves telling stories, and he is just doing his thing, but then life is not nice to him. So at some point, this whole creativity is basically punched out of him, until he then one day happens to stumble upon a library, and then he gets lost in the library because books and stories, and then the people in the library kind of adopt him, and then he's living as a librarian, and all the while he is looking for a city that was lost years ago. Like, literally lost. No one can reach the place, no one knows exactly where it is. People can't even remember the correct name of it. Like 15 years ago, the name of the city just vanished from the minds of people, from all recorded history. It just poof, gone. But Laszlo is able to remember that the name of the city everyone is calling it now is the wrong name. He remembers that the name was stolen. So he is collecting all this information about this city, this place. And then one day he gets the opportunity to go there. And that is what we're doing right now. We are going to this city, and we are about to reach this city. And there is a lot more going on here. We have a guy that is basically his bully, and let me tell you, it would be the perfect setup for enemies to lovers for some reason. I don't know if it's going to happen. Like, either these two characters, like Laszlo and his bully, are going to be enemies to lovers, or I hope this other guy is going to get what he deserves, because oh my god, I want to punch him in the face so much. Anyways, I like this book very, very much, and I think I will be very disappointed once I reach the end, just because it was ripped in half by the publisher. Thanks for nothing, Bastei Lübbe. I did not make any more progress on Guns of the Dawn, because it's so thick and so boring. 282 pages in. I wanted to stop. I think I'm going to go for another chapter at some point to reach the 300 page mark, which is just short of 50%. And at this point, like, if nothing extremely interesting happens in the next chapter, I'm going to soft DNF this. I still kind of want to finish it, because it is not completely uninteresting. It's just, I don't know. We are missing a greater goal in the plot at this point, so the pacing feels completely off. So we have no overarching goal, which makes the pacing that is so slow feel off even more, because we're not only trudging along, we're also trudging along without knowing where we're going, you know? So yeah, that kind of takes the fun of it away, the fun of reading this. I like the concepts in here. The concepts are very strong, but I don't know. I really don't know. I'm kind of invested in a love triangle right now, though. Like, I didn't expect there to be a love triangle. I didn't expect the love triangle to be what it is, but I kind of like it. But again, the pacing is so incredibly off for everything in this book. And this book is not marketed as a romance novel. And it doesn't feel like a romance novel. It's like the romance in here literally is a subplot. And you can recognize it as a subplot, but for some reason it's pushed towards, like, it's pushed in your face by the fact that there is no other plot to follow. You know what I mean? So everything about this just feels kind of disjointed a bit. Anyways, I'm gonna read another chapter of this at some point, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a soft DNF at this point already. But that's more than 25%, so I technically can still count it towards the main Adventurerathon TBR, hold for plane. Living next to a main street, close by one of the biggest airports in the world, sucks! Guns of the Dawn, surprisingly disappointing read so far. So, we're back in my kitchen because I'm hungry. I have been watching the Percy Jackson series, but not because I am super hyped for the Percy Jackson series. Actually, the whole, like, religious cult, like, hype that is surrounding, that surrounds this show and generally this fandom, I guess, is kind of off-putting. And I didn't plan on watching the Percy Jackson series, but I saw that one of my favorite actors is going to play Poseidon, so I was like, fine. And then I was positively surprised by A, the show, B, the fact that one of my favorite wrestlers is playing Ares. I was not expecting to see Edge, the R-rated superstar, in a, I don't want to call it a children's show, but, you know, so, that was funny. I also like the fact that we dead named Twitter, because if you call it X, we cannot be friends. And yeah, I think it's very, very funny that one of Ares' hobbies is to start fights on Twitter. That is cool. That is very modernized God of War. I like that. Also, huge fan of his just the general himbo energy this man is giving. Yes, perfect. And the Percy Jackson show didn't actually come first in my current hyperfixations. I'm not calling it a hyperfixation because it is not a hyperfixation. It is just a thing that is teetering at the edge of my consciousness 24/7, and I refuse to give in to this hyperfixation because I do not have time to hyperfixate on Greek pantheons and shit right now. But the fact that the Percy Jackson series hit shortly after we got Epic the Musical, The Ocean Saga. Have you listened to it? If not, go! What are you doing here? Pause this video, go listen to it, then come back and fangirl with me, because... Listen, Poseidon can drown me, and I would thank him for it. But yeah, I saw the comment, I don't know who it was, but I saw a comment where someone said, hey, the way Poseidon shows up in this musical kind of reminds me of a wrestler intro. So that, in combination with seeing Edge in the Percy Jackson show, has prompted my brain to cast all of the Greek pantheon with wrestlers? And that's a thing now I'm living with. Spooky. So yeah, my life right now is just listening to Fore songs over and over and over again, and staging the whole ass musical in my brain, because that is something I'm doing now. Happy fun times. I also apologize for not updating so much, at least in this first half of January. People had night shifts. I had to be quiet as a mouse because this building has great acoustics. So I had to be quiet, and I am not yet brave enough to film in public, so we are not doing that, so I apologize for the lack of updates. I can't 100% blame it on the night shifts though, because I also have to blame it on the fact that I didn't read that much. Simply because 2 out of the 3 books I started reading at the beginning of this month just were fucking boring. So yeah, motivation to read is hard to get when you have a shitty book at your hand. I think now it's getting better. We're getting better with the books I've chosen, so I think I can just read more. I also think I want to pivot from focusing on my main TBR to focusing on my bounty TBR, simply because I want the money. And as you know, the main quests only give you 50 gold per book finished, and I'm like, but I want to have the fantasy munsies. Because I also don't know what we are going to come up with in terms of magic items for the next rounds, and if I may need them or not. So yeah, I think I'm going to focus on my side TBR a bit more than on my normal TBR the coming week. I think I'm just gonna, like, 1 week bounties, and then the last week of January just plowing through as many, like, books as I can. That sounds like I have, like, a deadline on reading, and it's all a competition and things, and I'm very competitive about things, but this is, like, being competitive with myself, and I do recognize when I start to fall out of love with reading, or when I'm, for example, heading towards the dreaded book burnout. Don't worry, I will pace myself, but I need some sort of plan to know what the fuck I'm doing, so I think I'm going to focus the next week on just reading my bounties, and then in the last week check what's still left to do and read whatever the fuck I feel like doing at that point. That's it for now. I'm gonna eat this now. I'm hungry. So I'm in a bit of a pickle. and it's not one of the nice ones you can eat. I don't know what to read. I have been reading Fire Force. I read the 3 Fire Force volumes that I was supposed to read, that I wanted to read for side quests, but now I don't want to pick up any of my books. Like, not even just the ones on my TBR, but like just in general, I don't want to pick up a book right now. Which is... No, I do want to pick up a book. I do want to read. I just don't know which book, because none of these spark any kind of joy, to quote Marie Kondo. So I'm just standing here, staring at my shelves, not knowing what to do. Help!
Your pathetic addiction to vitamin D will only make you weak.
But Alice, my bones, they're ready to snap like twiglets.
Listen to me. Bones are a lie peddled by Big Milk to keep you buying. No such thing.
Right, so what keeps your body upright?
Sprite and coffee.
Well, I'm afraid we can't all subsist entirely on coffee and social media.
Long time no see. Filming around the schedule of people having night shifts is hard. But yeah, hi, it's me. I completely forgot to update about a couple of things. As you might have seen, I started Library After Unwritten, finished Library After Unwritten. Great book, love it. I want to be a librarian in hell when I grow up. And I also read Blood in the Water, which is a pirate fantasy adventure story, and I finished Thatcher's Mate, which is a shifter romance ? Let's roll it back for a second. So, Blood in the Water is this pirate story. It's a captain hunting another captain down for some reason, and they have this kind of rivalry going on between them. One of them is cursed. He found a monster on accident, and now that monster is living on his skin in the form of a tattoo, and every now and then it just bursts forth and kills a bunch of people. So that captain is looking for a solution to get rid of the demonic tattoo thing. And the other captain is hunting him down because on his quest to get rid of the demon tattoo, the other captain found this ghost trapping jar thingamathing thing, and the second captain stole that from him and sold it for really good money. So the second captain thinks the first captain is hunting down these jars, so if the second captain can steal the jars from the first captain, there's money to be made. It's confusing, I know, but that is not the main aspect of the story, so it's fine. That is just why they end up chasing each other across the seas. And then there is this weird sexual tension that both of them feel for each other, and at one point they just give in, and from there we immediately spiral in the one true love storyline, and now they are helping each other, completing this weird jar to get rid of the demon tattoo. It's a very fast-paced novella. I liked a lot of things in this thing, but the pacing was a bit off. Like, you have these huge time jumps of months and months and months, which I guess is okay to do given that there is not much happening if you are just going from A to B on a ship in the Caribbean. But a lot of things happened off page. A lot of important things happened off page, and that made the whole thing feel kind of rushed, as if someone was like, oh shit, I have a deadline for this novella in 2 weeks, and just started vomiting on the page. That's kind of how how this one felt like. So that Blood in the Water could blossom into something really good. It feels like something that has room to grow if someone just put in the time. You know what I mean? And then we have Thatcher's Maid, which is just, no, like, it feels, the concept is nothing new. It is two shifters falling in love when they meet each other at a tournament. They are bunk buddies, and then they are bonk buddies. And just, I don't know, given it's only 80 pages, so there's not a lot of time to develop anything. But there was a backstory to play with for both of these characters, which could have been explored. And it's somewhat, the epilogue is giving you more than the rest of the book, which is also kind of a weird thing. And again, there was potential there, but at the same time less potential than with Blood in the Water. I didn't really like it. The writing style was also very, I don't know. Wasn't my cup of tea, but 80 pages, so read it, done, next. And then I read Library of the Unwritten. I read/listened to Library of the Unwritten, and yeah, I wanna be a librarian in hell when I grow up, and there is actually a chance that I might be the librarian in hell according to the rules of this book. Because in order to become the librarian of the Unwritten Ring, you have to be someone who loves to write but never finishes a story. The story of Library of the Unwritten is just very intriguing, and it does a lot of things in its limited runtime. But I enjoyed all of these things. Like, we are traveling the world a bit, we are traveling afterlives a bit. We have some very interesting characters with Claire, our librarian, and then the hero named Hero. And we have the library assistant's Brevity, who is also a muse, but she got kicked out of muse school because she wanted to have some inspiration for herself. Love it. Big fan of everything that's going on. And it's an action-packed story about stories. I really loved the story off we had in Valhalla, where two librarians fought by yeeting quotes at each other, which you then have to interpret the meaning, name the person who originally said it, and then you have to respond with another quote. I want to be a librarian fighting with quotes of famous people. Okay? I want to be that person. It was very good. And with that, the Adventurerathon comes to a close. Like, today is the 31st of January. I have finished a lot of my reads. I checked off a lot of my prompts, but I don't think I'm going to start another book today. So all that is left for me to do is log everything into the various sheets to make sure that I don't forget my gold and I don't forget what prompt I did and what prompt I didn't. And then it is back to the drawing board. Then it is back to the very chaotic brainstorming document that I try to make sense of every now and then. And I had fun. I hope y'all had fun. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye.